Hello, and welcome to our presentation, What If 2020 Isn't Canceled? My name is Andrew Greisman, Digital Content Manager for Digital Food and Beverage, and I'm joined today by Charles Lazzara, who's the President of Volio Imports. Charles, we're really happy to have you with us, and I'm looking forward to hearing your presentation.
Thank you, Andrew. Really excited to be here, and thank you for the opportunity to present to the group here for this, I think, very important summit, and happy to be a part of it. So thanks for the opportunity. Without further ado, I will just get into it. This is all about what if 2020 isn't canceled. And really what I want to discuss is based off of a quote by an individual that I really don't know, but I'm really fond of, and it goes like this. What if 2020 isn't canceled? What if 2020 is the year we've been waiting for? A year so uncomfortable, so painful, so scary, so raw, that it finally forces us to grow. A year that screams loud, finally awaking us from our ignorant slumber. A year we finally accept the need for change, declare change, work for change, become the change. A year we finally band together instead of pushing each other further apart. 2020 isn't canceled, but rather the most important year for them all. And that's from Leslie Dwight. I don't know who Leslie Dwight is. I just, as me and my marketing team talk about what's transpired over the past 6 months for our industry, we continue to go back to this recently discovered quote, and it just goes through our mind about all of the changes we've had to make as a company to stay relevant to the industry. And this quote encapsulates the first half of the year and will define the road we go down the second half of 2020. And really, what are we trying to learn from 2020? Again, this is the concept of making small, quick changes that lead to big change. We're trying to get comfortable being uncomfortable, because for everyone that is working from home with their children pulling at them every 5 minutes, with their dogs barking while they're on Zoom calls, with the fact that they get up and they've got their collared shirt on or their business shirt on, but they're basically in pajamas to get that first morning meeting. Everything has changed, and we are constantly evolving, and it is uncomfortable. But this is all about being comfortable with the uncomfortable. The concept of the new norm is far out the window. What we want to be establishing is, how do we stay what I refer to as nimble and brave? But it's really just about being comfortable, being uncomfortable. The third piece is standing for something. This is not just in light of the recent events between protests over inequities and social justice. This is not about being there for your first responders who have been such an integral part of COVID. This is just about having your company deliver its message and mean something to its consumer. Because today, the consumer has the right to choose, and they choose lifestyle. They choose to buy into brands that they can resonate with, that actually stand for something that they align with, either philosophically or on principle, align with their needs and align with their household. And so we want to get into it. Let's just get into it. Small, quick changes that lead to big change. You know, when we talk about this, we get really agile. We start thinking about the things that adjust our business, but don't affect the foundation that's been built in our business. And that's the critical piece, right? Is that we need to be able to pivot from where we were 3 months ago or 6 months ago and get to where we need to be to get in front of the customers, to be able to feedback and respond, to be able to be, as I mentioned before, nimble and brave. For me, repetition, repetition, repetition. You'll hear this all the time throughout the presentation, because you can't get to it enough. So these small changes, they don't threaten our foundation. I can give you a great example. We had to pivot in our industry. So I'm in the wine business, of course. We're an importer of fine wine. We bring wines in from Europe. We sell them to all 50 states around the country. We were supposed to do this large national rollout of about 9 brands over 50 states in the first 3 months of the year. Our product rolled in March, delivered to the market around March 15th, and March 17th, basically, half of our industry shut down. In one day, one of our largest customers had 140,000 of their customers, the restaurant industry, shut down, right, due to COVID. So what do you do when you lose 40% of your business in one day? You've got to be able to pivot. And this is all about making small changes that don't affect the foundation that's built. Because when you've got a foundation solid foundation. You have customer trust. You're building customer equity. Everything you want to do is to maintain that customer equity, that solid foundation, but you need to chip away at the piece of the industry that you just lost. And so for us, it was all about getting vertical in our industry and about getting closer to our customer. Micro innovations that quickly and constantly bring us closer to challenge that customer experience, really developing what we want to refer to as customer nirvana. Because when we're able to understand what our customers' needs are, we can work closer to get to the customer. And this allows us test marketing for new products, faster feedback, closer communication. We want to be there to understand how to field the issues that are affecting our customer, whether it's on delivery of a consumer product good that arrives to the door. We've seen wine delivery to households increase on platforms like wine.com, Vivino, et cetera. It's up 400%. What used to be a 3-year plan or a 2-year plan to get established in e-commerce has quickly moved to innovating constantly every day, challenging the norm of how do we get to where we wanted to be in 18 months faster. Again, we're trying to get there and not subscribe to this idea that you need to plan. We get into this analysis paralysis over time because we want to dig into data and really understand the minutia around the decision we make because we want to hedge bets. But in this environment, you have to be able to make changes, to innovate, and respond to customers' changing behavior. As I mentioned, our industry quickly pivoted from a brick and mortar retail environment to curbside pickup. The restaurant industry, in order to survive, was forced to really get into ready-made cocktails. We called it RTD, ready to drink. It was forced to get into curbside pickup. So takeout, which was never the primary driver of the restaurant industry, became the driver. E-commerce popped up about where to find the best curbside pickup. You know, all of these new platforms developed, which creates this sort of storm online of how do customers find what they want as fast as they want, getting the same type of experience they wanted in the brick and mortar, in the restaurant, the dine-in experience through retail. For us, it's about, as a winery-driven product, bridging the consumer experience to the vineyard experience. That's our mission and vision at Volio. And we have to recreate that through storytelling. Because our platform is a knowledge platform, you know, consumers, generally speaking, on fine wines from Europe, they're looking for information to create a compelling argument to spend money on the product. We have to have an environment, a platform that allows us to get that story out, to create a compelling argument. We have to align ourselves with platforms that allow consumers to come and browse. And this type of innovation gets us into platforms that customers are actively engaging, right? That they're comfortable with the user experience. And we need to be able to get in there quickly, build relationships fast, and then provide that sourced need to those groups to become valuable almost instantaneously. And that's a real challenge. But the only way that you can get there quickly is through micro-innovation. And that micro-innovation is, again, coming back to the idea that you can't plan things out expecting them to change in your favor. Sometimes you have to take the risk. Be nimble, be brave, get there fast, get there first, and test it. And a lot of small strategic innovations will add up into a large macro innovation. And that will help you lead in the direction of your industry. And that brings me to challenging assumptions. You cannot assume that the old ways will work. Challenge the existing assumptions in your organization and your outlook for the future. Again, all of these things stack up, small change leading to big change. And in each of these, it's sort of the trickle-down effect. You need one to feed the other. It's the legs feed the wolf. You make small changes, you get vertical, you micro-innovate, and you challenge assumptions. You really can't do one without doing the other because they all depend on each other in a holistic, systematic change to be influential in your industry. You know, again, I come back to us. In our example from my industry, we have many people that are in the fine wine space that find themselves, frankly, over-leveraged. They depend on 70 or 80% of their business as importers or suppliers to be sold through distributors who then sell to restaurants and retailers. This level of disconnection from your consumer base leads to this long game of telephone, which eventually drives so much hardship into how you can deliver your message transparently to your customer. And this is really what we get into when we start talking about, in small pieces, the idea of getting comfortable being uncomfortable. Change is hard. The workplace and working relationships have changed. Customers are being forced to change habits, and you cannot rest on past success. So what does that mean? Well, let's talk first about the workplace, right? We all know, because I'm sitting in my home, I might have my kids run in. I had to put up 2 boxes of wine to block the door to make sure nobody jumped in, right? It's unusual. You're pushing yourself into a new generation of working. The new workplace and the new working relationships are no longer what they were before. So some companies are totally shutting down offices. We can talk more about customers moving quickly to digital channels, and people are more personally connected and understanding of family, kids, pets, etc. There's no longer this time where you can say, oh, I need to fly there to visit you to make this connection. Today, we are more connected via video, via Zoom, via conferences such as this than ever before to our customers. So there's really no excuse not to get closer to your customer, even if you're further away. And this is what's driving customers to force and change habits. I mentioned before about the move in our industry to digital, the need for us to pivot. You know, this whole change in structure, organizational structures, work structures, balance of work and life balance. This is opening up digital channels, creating new habits, and giving an opportunity for new products and services. Governments will also have to deal with these new market changes, legalities, the way we purchase alcohol as an example. Restaurants are starting to allow takeout booze. Local and state governments had to immediately figure out how to regulate this in order to allow restaurants, which are a critical employer in the industry around the country, employing, I think it's 11 million jobs, to stay relevant and to be, not going bankrupt every day. Regulations are changing daily. They're changing monthly in regards to now states opening up. You've got to be nimble in all of this. You've got to be relevant. You've got to be, again, comfortable with the uncomfortable. And you really can't sit there and rest on past success. Again, I go back to our industry, my experience. Again, over the past 3 months, we've gone through trials and tribulations because the product that we laid in that traditionally would have flowed through the 3 tiers of the wine industry, through our distributors, to restaurants and retails, through a classic launch strategy that we put in place in November of last year, where my sales team, which covers the United States, would have gone into individual markets, would have worked alongside the sales reps at the distributor level, would have gone and visited physical locations. This idea is gone. That idea was blown up in March or late February when no one was able to travel and we started to work remotely. So how can I, as a business, rely on that past success, which was supposed to be this groundbreaking moment for my company onto the national scene for several of our products that became very important to us over the past 9 months? We couldn't. So what do we have to do? We had to react. We had to change. We had to be comfortable with the uncomfortable. And again, this all relates to these small changes that we had to make that become very much a big part of our business. For us today, we've got this tremendous opportunity for people to change their work-life balance. We have to be understanding of the fact, and I think that in general, we're all sympathetic to it because we're all living it, that you're going to have Zoom conferences and kids are going to come in. Your spouse is going to come in and not know, because we constantly see each other with headphones on, and not know if you're on a call or if you're waiting for a call. And these interruptions that used to be unprofessional in our industry are now acceptable. And we all realized that the office was a safe space because it allowed us to be prim and proper. We went in dressed to go. We were professional. We were tied up. Now we're at home, and you've got to balance this. You're getting thrown in several different directions. The reality is that this is not going anywhere. So we as an industry, food and beverage, have to be understanding of how we're consuming things in our home. Consumption for the wine industry is up. It's all in-home consumption. The average price per bottle was up exponentially high in the first few months of this COVID experience. But with threats of tariffs looming over everyone, supply chains weren't what we thought they would be when COVID hit. We actually had pretty robust supply chain. Trade flows were good. The challenge is that we worry about people trading down as unemployment spikes. Again, change in behavior, comfortable being uncomfortable. And then now we see the markets reopening, perhaps a second wind of COVID. And what do we do as an industry? Well, we're seeing restaurants reopen, beverages being allowed, legalized for another year to be takeout, curbside pickup on booze without having to uncork it at the table. You know, all of these changes, it's every day there's an update. And when you have to navigate, as we all do, 50 different states, which look and feel like 50 different countries when it comes to rules and regulations around our products, how we go to market, how we deal with retailers. Is there a slotting fee? Is there not a slotting fee? Do we have to pay for banner ads on digital platforms? How do we react? How do we stay relevant? All of these market forces combine and just create a very, not necessarily unstable environment, but a very uncomfortable environment. And so for us in our business, in order to grow, we have to be very comfortable with the uncomfortable. And this leads us to really a defining and critical piece of our business and the future of the business. And that is standing for something. You know, today, as we sit at home, we armchair quarterback from our phones or from our laptops, jamming Netflix, binging on things that we hadn't seen as much of before. At every level, customers are buying in on companies that have purpose, transparent messaging about mission and vision, and then it's all about repetition. You've heard me talk about the same points over and over within the same slide because for me, repetition drives clarity. You know, for me, repetition, this concept of being people, profit, planet, these are all concepts that B Corp stick to, but everyone identifies with, right? In their own way, shape, or form. And so at every level, customers are buying in with companies that have a purpose that aligns with their mission and vision as an individual. So you got to stand for something, but it doesn't always mean social responsibility. Customers want to buy from companies that have purpose. Everyone knows it's important to have a value proposition, but it's important that you're standing for something specific and communicating your purpose to your customers, your suppliers, and your employees. This is becoming so much more clear with strong voices and actions of consumers because in the end, every customer votes with their dollars. And every one of us knows that. In my industry, I think that for the wine business, we have 4 very fundamental questions we must answer for every customer. And it may relate well to other imported food products. Labels are confusing. If you look at cheeses from France, you look at cheeses from Italy, you look at cheese from Spain, you look at wine, imported pastas, sauces, etc., tuna, olives, you name it, anything that's about to be tariffed if it goes through, you have to answer some fundamental questions for the customer. And it's not because we assume that they don't know because they're ignorant, it's because we know it's confusing. The first question is, where is it from, right? Because not everyone can read the label. In our industry, for the wine business, the grapes are hard to pronounce. The grape is not necessarily what's on the front label. So you have to help customers through that. So you answer the second question, what is it made of? Because if it's brie from a certain area of a certain part of France, it may carry a different name to it. Consumer product goods that have fanciful names, it doesn't necessarily tell the customer what the product is. We have to help them answer that question through what Aristotle referred to as the ABCs, audience, brevity, and clarity. So at every level, we have to get our customers to buy in with us and they have to understand our purpose, our mission, vision, our value statement. So I come back to, what is it? So where is it from? What is it made of? How is it made? Transparency in how we market our products. And then lastly, who are the influencers that support the hypothesis that if I buy this oat bar, if I buy this cheese, if I buy this pasta, who's going to tell me that it's good, that my money is good, it's well spent on this product? And fundamentally, if we can answer those 4 questions, where is it from? What is it made of? How is it made? And who else out there can validate my spend, my bet on this new product? Then we have a chance of winning because we're doing those 3 things that Aristotle talked about back long time ago. We know our audience. We've offered brevity and clarity in messaging. And that transparency allows us to show our customer that we truly stand for something. This transparent messaging about mission and vision is what we're working towards, and this allows our purpose to shine. Repetition, 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 right? Everyone is familiar with what we want to get, but not everything is communicated often enough to reaffirm the mission and vision. So in my industry, from my company, I talk often about the need for our customers to understand the journey behind the bottle of wine, to understand that our products are made from people, real wine. So I go through this in every exercise, every time we get to face our customer in digital, social, and also face-to-face or through calls like this, that our products, our message must resonate, that we have to separate ourselves from commodity because our price point is higher and the category is challenging. So we're just trying to stand up for something, because if you don't stand up today, you got to sit down. No one's going to listen to you. You're not going to make it through this period. So again, we come back to being a trusted resource, being a reference for your product and for your industry, and then knowing where you stand within your market. I think that these people, these pieces, the way that we connect to the consumer helps define why 2020 isn't canceled, because we will move it forward. We will be the ones that shape the future. And this change, this flexibility around understanding our environment, about knowing how to move through this sea change, this daily white cap, this turning sea of regulation, challenges to our industry, changes in consumer behavior, let us know that we can do small, quick changes that lead to big change. We can get uncomfortable stuff out of the way and be comfortable with the uncomfortable, knowing how to work in an always changing environment. And then lastly, that we stand for something, that our message is clear, that consumers know where we stand on the quality of our product, on the foundation of our company, on what we want people to buy us for. These are all the defining characteristics, in my opinion, of a sustainable brand that can navigate the changes and challenges of this time. I really hope you enjoyed this. I welcome any questions you have, and I invite you to join me in the movement that this 2020 is not canceled. Thank you.